You probably know Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's the #1 best-selling success and wealth book of all time. But here's what most people don't realize. Buried inside those 13 principles is the one thing Hill himself called the greatest source of power ever discovered by mankind. He was referring to the mastermind principle. And yet it is the principle almost everyone misunderstands or ignores altogether. I'm David Barrett. A decade ago, I was an addict with 2 homes in foreclosure. Today, I built a $40 million business and helped thousands of entrepreneurs change their minds and transform their businesses and lives. And I can tell you, it was unlocking the true mastermind principle that turned everything around for me. So in this episode, I'm going to break down the mastermind principle into 6 key ideas that will completely change the way you think about your relationships, your success, and reality. And by the end of this conversation, you're going to see why this principle is not about networking, it's not about feedback groups, it's about tapping into a supernatural law that can bend reality in your favor. Key number 1, alignment creates power. When you hear mastermind today, most people think about networking groups. You get together with a bunch of people, you swap ideas, maybe you get some feedback on something like your business, maybe you get some accountability. And listen, those things can be useful, I suppose, but that is not what Napoleon Hill was talking about. He wasn't talking about brainstorming sessions. He wasn't talking about exchanging business cards. What Napoleon discovered, studying people like Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the most powerful and successful people during his time, was this. They weren't just collaborating, they were tapping into something way beyond themselves. Hill's exact words were, "No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind." Now think about that. When 2 people come together with a shared purpose, a third mind is present, something new is born. He defined the mastermind as, quote, "the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between 2 or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose." That spirit of harmony part, that's actually the key. It's not just being in the same room, it's about being in alignment, being in coherence. When there's true alignment of purpose, of desire, and ultimately of energy, something new appears. This is why Hill called it the very foundation of all great fortunes. He said, quote, "No individual has ever amassed power or wealth without it." So that takes us to key number 2. Agreement awakens a third mind. Now, if you're familiar with scripture, you've heard this before. In Matthew 18, Jesus says, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I with them." What Jesus was articulating is the mastermind principle. 2 or more people aligned in harmony, and the presence of God, of infinite intelligence, actually shows up. Hill wasn't just giving us a business principle. He was pointing to a spiritual law that he discovered while studying these great men. When we come into agreement, not just intellectually, but emotionally, energetically, spiritually, there's a portal that opens up. We invite something greater than ourselves into the equation and into the conversation. And you know this, you've felt it, you've experienced it. You've been aligned with someone in your life and you felt the ideas flowing almost like they were coming from somewhere else. They weren't coming from you, they weren't coming from the other person. It was a higher level of thinking and innovation. That's the third mind. And here's where this gets even more mind-blowing. This isn't just philosophy, this is actually physics. That takes us to key number 3, which is focus tunes the field. See, most people make the mistake of thinking that thoughts originate in the brain, but that's not true. The brain doesn't create thoughts any more than a radio houses a musician. A radio is a receiver, right? The musician is somewhere else. The sound is broadcast and the radio simply tunes in. And your brain functions the same way. It's a receiver of consciousness. Ideas and thoughts exist outside of you in what scientists might call the unified field and what mystics like Neville Goddard referred to as the 4th dimension or the quantum dimension, what scripture calls the mind of God. Every idea that has ever existed or will ever exist already exists in that field. And when you focus your attention on something, when you have a burning desire, as Napoleon would describe it, for something, when you obsess over it, you are beaming a signal into the field. You're tuning your mental radio dial, and the universe begins broadcasting the right response in the form of ideas, insights, hunches, conversations, and even the right coincidences to structure the materialization of what it is that you desire. And here's what most people miss. When you sustain that focus, you don't just get new ideas, you activate synchronicities. Other people are actually influenced by your focused attention and desire. You literally tilt probability in your favor. The entire world starts to respond to what it is that you're focusing on. The right people show up, the right doors open, circumstances rearrange themselves. And that's why Napoleon Hill said, when a man truly desires a thing so deeply that he's willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel, he is sure to win. Because desire plus attention is not just psychology, it's actually energy. Now, you add another person into the mix, aligned with the same desire and the same focus, and that energy doubles, it triples, it multiplies. The radio signal strengthens. And that's what Napoleon meant by the third mind appearing. Hey, it's David. Quick interruption to your regularly scheduled podcast episode. I want to let you know about an opportunity to go even deeper into this work together. If you have not yet, please check out the show notes. In there, we've got links to both our Mind Hack and our Whole Human Framework programs. Our Mind Hack course is an incredible framework. It's the foundation of everything that I teach on this show to help you understand how to become deeply aware of the subconscious programs that are holding you back and to teach you the technologies and frameworks to allow you to dramatically transform those belief systems and rewire your brain. Again, the Mind Hack program is our 7-day self-paced program. We also have our 12-week course, The Whole Human Framework. And we've got both of them right now bundled in a special offer for those of you who want to go big, want to go fast, and who understand that you don't want to put off another day of your full potential or holding on to unnecessary stress, anxiety, or suffering, but you want to be liberated from these habits of thinking and have a powerful living experience. Check out the link in the show notes. Jump on over to the website. Take a look at the programs and the extraordinary success stories of entrepreneurs just like you who have gone through these courses, and I will see you on the other side. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast episode. Now, key number 4 is combined energy multiplies results. Here's where the mastermind becomes exponential. One person focusing creates power, a power that has the capacity to change your own life. But when two or more align their focus, their desire, and their intention, that signal gets amplified so much that it can change the world. The beam becomes brighter and the third mind awakens. You literally create a mainframe right into consciousness itself. And that's why history tilts in the favor of small groups of aligned people. Take Edison, Rockefeller, and Ford, for example. Now, Thomas Edison invented the electric light bulb, right? And his discovery threatened to destroy John D. Rockefeller's kerosene empire overnight. Right? But Rockefeller had a mastermind. Ron Chernow, who wrote the biography of John D. Rockefeller, a book called Titan, said, Rockefeller ran his executive group like a mastermind principal. Everybody was directed towards Rockefeller's vision of becoming one of the most powerful people in the world. But imagine Rockefeller, one of the richest men alive, watching as Edison unveiled a technology that could eliminate the need for kerosene lamps. Rockefeller's empire would have collapsed literally overnight. But here's what happened at the same time. Henry Ford tuned into another idea for the Model T, and he perfected the Model T. What powered the Model T Ford? Gasoline. Gasoline was essentially a useless byproduct of refined kerosene. Overnight, gasoline became a premium fuel. The very thing that should have bankrupted Rockefeller became the foundation for Standard Oil's greatest expansion. Edison's invention should have ruined him, but because of the alignment of his executive team and a synchronicity between Ford and Edison, whether consciously or unconsciously, the mastermind effect tilted probability, and Rockefeller became one of the richest, most powerful people in the world. And then you have JP Morgan and Rockefeller aligning with other industrialists and bankers. They had a vision for controlling the financial system and for actually controlling and becoming more powerful than nations. And so they tapped into an idea in the field, which was the need for a centralized banking system. And together, through a series of coincidences and synchronicities, brought forth the Federal Reserve System in 1913. You cannot deny the power of what they created. A small group of aligned men literally rewrote the rules of global finance and became more powerful than nations themselves. That's the mastermind principle at work. Or think about Jefferson, Franklin, Washington, and the founders of America, a ragtag group of colonists with no real army, no money, no chance against the British Empire, the most powerful military force in the world. And yet, Through shared vision, alignment, and belief in a new idea and a new nation, they achieved the impossible. 13 colonies became the United States of America. And this wasn't just military strategy, this was a mastermind. And maybe the greatest example of all is Jesus and the 12 disciples. Ordinary men, fishermen, tax collectors, but aligned in vision and aligned in purpose. They carried a message that changed civilization. 2,000 years later, billions of people follow it. And that's not just the power of one man. That's the mastermind principle operating through a group in perfect alignment. So this is the pattern. Over and over again, small groups of aligned people have been able to change the balance of history. That takes us to key number 5. Your circle shapes your destiny. What does this mean for you and me? Well, it means connecting is not optional, especially in today's world where we're separated by digital media, social media, trying to make an impact or build our business or have relationships from behind a computer. It's not a true connection. And energy flows through connection. That's why isolation feels like death and community feels like life. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I was at a low point in my own life, I had a new desire, which was to give up alcohol and become sober, but I needed other people who were focused on that outcome at the same time in order to carry me through the challenges of my addiction. And I did it, surrounded by people who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. That was a mastermind effect. In fact, when I look back on my life, anything great that I've ever created, there was the mastermind effect and the power of the third mind. When I started this coaching business, the industry was totally saturated, and it still is. Everyone had a podcast. They still do. Everyone has a course. Everyone was fighting for attention. But I built circles of people around me who thought in my favor, who amplified my ideas, who shared my vision. I made a commitment to spend time with other entrepreneurs who were all focused on growing their businesses and who believed in me as much as I believed in them. And that's the singular principle behind how we went from $0 to $40 million in one of the noisiest markets on earth. And my most powerful mastermind has to be, for sure, hands down, with my wife, Carol. We are business partners, we're co-visionaries, we're life partners, and together we held a vision for an extraordinary life and a life where we could make an impact in the world, a business that would be a big part of re-engineering civilization and ending human suffering. And because of that shared alignment, I've seen miracle after miracle show up over the course of the last 8 years, doors open that we could never have opened on our own. This is why you can't afford to try to build your vision in isolation. The mastermind isn't optional, it's the operating system of creation itself. And that takes us to key number 6, the power of decision. Because you might be thinking, hey, but David, I don't have a mastermind. I don't have people who believe in me like that. You know what? I get it. When I started, I didn't either. I was single for 10 years. I didn't have any entrepreneurial friends. I didn't have any friends in recovery. I didn't even know what recovery was. I didn't have a network. But here's the truth. You don't need to have it to begin. You just need to decide. Because decision is magnetic. When I decided I was going to build powerful relationships with really amazing people doing even more extraordinary things in the world, because I didn't have a network, weeks later, I was asked to speak at an event where I met some of the same people who I'm literally masterminding with today, people who have become best friends, the best man in my wedding, business partners. So life responds to the clarity that you have and the decisions you make. All you need to do is declare it, and the right people will be drawn into your orbit. So let's bring this home. Napoleon Hill's mastermind principle is not about networking. It's not about groupthink. It's about accessing the greatest power known to humanity, as Napoleon said, the ability for 2 or more aligned people to create a third mind, a spiritual intelligence that bends reality in your favor. This is how empires were built. This is how revolutions were won. This is how movements that shaped civilization began. And it's how you can create your future. So I want you to ask yourself this: who do I need to align with? Who am I willing to believe in, and who will believe in me? And who do I need to stop spending time with because it's just not part of the vision I have for my future? Because the moment you decide, the mastermind effect begins. And from that point forward, you're no longer building alone. You're building with infinite intelligence at your side. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I love sharing it with you. Do me a favor, if you have not yet and you're following along on YouTube, subscribe and hit that bell icon. That is how we are going to further this mastermind together and do it together and get more people into this work. And by the way, if you haven't yet, jump on over to davidbear.com, opt in. You'll get my free Mind Hack ebook and a 4-part video series that's going to teach you how to go beyond self-awareness, rewire your brain, and re-engineer your reality. I love being here with you. I love you so much. Thank you for being a part of my mastermind. I'm thrilled to be a part of yours. And if you love this episode, share it with somebody else. Let's bring them into the mastermind together, and I will see you in the next episode.